The Champions League. Why is everyone so obsessed with it? Oh, before you jump in the comments talking about how wonderful it is for the fans, I'm not talking about the fans. For us fans, it is the pinnacle of club football. Last 2 seasons, Barcelona versus Inter. 2 teams going band for band. And you want to talk attacking powerhouses? Last season, Bayern versus PSG. 2 teams just decided to throw defense out the way and just attack each other. Damn, I still remember it like I watched it yesterday. The Champions League is so good for us fans, but what is in it for the clubs? Like, for a very long time, Tottenham was considered the Champions League club, meaning every season they were in the Champions League but never won anything. And they were considered a big club because of this. And it seemed Daniel Levy, Tottenham's old president by the way, was very content with this. Like, as long as Tottenham made the Champions League, it was fine if the club won nothing. Also, there is something called the top 4, and every club is trying to get into the top 4 every season. And most clubs will consider the top 4 as an achievement. So why? Just to play in the Champions League? Yes, just to play in the Champions League. Why are clubs obsessed with playing in it? What do clubs care about? Money, money, money. So yes, the Champions League gives them a lot of money, but exactly how much? Do you know? Let's break it down. I'm not like the other channels who dilly-dally. These are the numbers. Reach the league phase and you get 18.62 million euros. In the league phase, a win is 2.1 million euros, and a draw is 700,000 euros. I've seen some fan bases delude themselves that a small team will fight for a win or draw against a big dog because the team they support needs them to either win or draw against some other team. Sorry, dilly-dallying. Back to the video. In the league phase, finish 1st to 8th and you get an extra 2 million euros. Finish 9th to 16th, extra 1 million euros. Teams finishing 17th to 24th can also reach the knockout playoff. They just do not get that extra 1 million euro league ranking bonus. Reach the knockout playoff, an extra 1 million euros. Reach the round of 16, an extra 11 million euros. Yes, 11 million euros to make it to the round of 16. Quarterfinal, 12.5 million euros. Semis, 15 million euros. Final, 18.5 million euros. And winning gives you an extra 6.5 million euros. That's it, video over. So those who were here only for the figures, you can leave. Now, for everyone else, how does all that extra money compound? So let's say Barcelona wins the Champions League, because they will this year, mark it somewhere. How does their money compound each round? Let's assume Barcelona have a strong league phase. 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, finish top 8. Then go straight to the round of 16. Keep an eye on the running total. Qualifying for the league phase gives us 18.62 million euros, plus 6 wins, which is 12.60 million euros, taking the total to 31.22 million euros. Then 1 draw, which is 700,000 euros, taking our total to 31.92 million euros. Top 8 bonus is 2.00 million euros, which takes our total to 33.92 million euros. Are you following? Reaching the round of 16 adds 11.00 million euros, which takes the total to 44.92 million euros now. Reaching the quarterfinal is plus 12.50 million euros, taking the total to 57.42 million euros. Reaching the semifinal adds an additional 15 million euros, taking the total to 72.42 million euros. Reaching the final alone is plus 18.50 million euros, taking the total to 90.92 million euros. And then winning the Champions League is an additional 6.50 million euros, which takes the total to 97.42 million euros. So winning the Champions League gives you 97.42 million euros, right? Wrong. We haven't included their league position ranking payment or their value pillar money yet. The hell is a value pillar? For example, suppose Barca finish 4th in the league phase. Fourth place gets 33 ranking shares. Each share initially equals 275,000 euros, although the final value rises slightly depending on how many draws happen across the competition. So minimum ranking money would be roughly 33 multiplied by 275,000 euros equals 9.075 million euros. Now our total becomes 97.42 million euros plus 9.075 million euros, 106.495 million euros. God damn, that's a lot of money. No wonder teams want to win it. So Barcelona get 106 million euros for winning the Champions League? Well, not quite. You see the value pillar thing I talked about? Well, another amount of money is given to the clubs based on how well established and prestigious the club is. Basically, so Barcelona can be getting more than what we have claimed here. But for the love of God and women, let's keep this as the amount. 106.495 million euros. Or, let's say over 106.495 million euros. One extra detail. Barcelona wouldn't get the 1 million euro knockout playoff bonus in this example because we've assumed they finish in the top 8 and therefore skip the playoff round. Teams finishing 9th to 24th can collect that 1 million euros instead. So, yes, winning the Champions League is very lucrative. And PSG have won it twice in a row now, and the only team capable of stopping them is Barcelona. Okay now, you see, when you're with your girlfriend and she gets angry for no reason, and you ask her, "What's wrong?" and she does not answer, and you keep asking and she says nothing, but you can tell something is wrong and she is not telling you the whole thing. At this point, there is a small section of you guys saying in your head that I did not explain the value pillar well. So, here is the explanation of the value pillar system. Brace yourself. The value pillar is basically UEFA saying, okay, performance matters, but so does how commercially valuable and historically established your club is. For the 2025-26 Champions League, UEFA set aside about 853 million euros just for the value pillar. That is a massive chunk of the total Champions League distribution. The value pillar has two parts. European part. This is mostly about how valuable your club and your country are to European broadcasters, plus your recent UEFA history. UEFA looks at how much TV money comes from your domestic market, then ranks the clubs from that country partly based on how often they have been in UEFA competitions over the previous 5 seasons. UEFA then combines that with the club's 5-year UEFA coefficient. The better your combined ranking, the more money you get. So, in simple terms, if you are Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern, Liverpool, PSG, Manchester City, clubs like that, you are probably doing pretty well here because you come from valuable TV markets and you have been regularly playing in Europe. Then there is the non-European part. This one is based on the club's 10-year UEFA coefficient, basically rewarding long-term European pedigree. Again, the better your historical ranking, the more shares you receive. And this is where it gets funny. The money is split into shares. For the European part, the lowest-ranked club gets 1 share worth about 935,000 euros, while the highest-ranked club gets 36 shares. For the non-European part, the lowest-ranked club gets 1 share worth about 346,000 euros, while the highest gets 36. So, theoretically, a club sitting near the top of both rankings could get well over 40 million euros from the value pillar alone. That is why 2 teams can both reach the same round of the Champions League and still walk away with very different amounts of money. Ferencvaros might be thinking, "We made the quarterfinals, nice, 12.5 million euros." Real Madrid, meanwhile, could be sitting there like, yes, quarterfinals, lovely. Now where is my big club money? That is basically the value pillar. UEFA is rewarding not just what you did this season, but also how commercially valuable your market is and how successful your club has been in Europe over several years. Same way you give your understanding girlfriend no money, but spend big on a bad bitch. Also, let's not forget the home match ticket sales, hospitality, sponsors, merchandise, and increased exposure. I mean, we only know of Ferencvaros and Paphos and Kairat Almaty. Like, these teams are mostly known because of the Champions League, unless you're addicted to Football Manager, like me, or are an avid sports bettor. So qualifying for the Champions League can completely change how a club spends money. If a club knows Champions League money is coming in, suddenly the transfer budget can get bigger, the wage budget can get bigger, and they can probably convince better players to join because they can offer Champions League football. But if that same club misses out, now the money they were expecting is gone. Maybe they have to spend less, maybe they have to sell a player. That is why the fight for 4th or 5th place is not just about bragging rights. The difference between qualifying for the Champions League and ending up in the Europa League can be tens of millions of euros. And for some clubs, that difference can completely change what they are able to do in the next transfer window. So this is why a team from an obscure nation making it into the Champions League is so significant. Because even if they lose all 8 matches, they walk away with 18 million euros. Then they can reinvest that money into the club and dominate their league and try to make it into the Champions League again. Champions League football consecutively for 3 seasons can completely change a small club. And I just basically explained how most Football Manager players play the game. Anyway, that's it. That's Champions League money. That's how much a club makes at every stage, and that's why the clubs care so much. I can't focus on writing the script anymore because my imaginary girlfriend just sent me nudes. Okay, bye-bye.